the Montana Ag Network.
Hey, good Wednesday afternoon. It's time for our farm and ranch news. And today, the U.S. Meat Export Federation has kicked off their spring conference in Kansas City, Missouri. They will be discussing multiple issues that are impacting the U.S. red meat industry. Trade is one of those big issues, and according to USMEF, despite Congress still not voting on the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, Mexico remains a top market for U.S. red meat, but uncertainty is hurting American meat producers and that meat heading to Mexico.
Despite all the uncertainty around USMCA and possible further retaliation, beef hung in there with some modest growth, but growth nonetheless for the first quarter. So our purpose in being down there is to really talk with the trade and reassure them that we are reliable suppliers and we are hopeful for some resolution on some of the issues.
Hallstrom said because of the uncertainty with USMCA and other trade deals, consumers in Mexico have turned to Canada and the EU to meet their red meat need. But added customers in Mexico don't want to establish those supply chains, but until trade issues settle, those alternative relationships will continue to grow. Also at this week's conference, a panel will discuss the economic impacts of African swine fever.
Dr. Pyburn, who's going to kick off the panel, is going to talk about what the disease is and what it isn't. And he's also going to talk about the efforts to protect the North American market. So I think that's issue number one. Issue number two is starting to understand the trade implications into China is not only the largest producer of pork in the world, but also the largest consumer of pork in the world. Then you overlay some of these tariff issues that are out there today. These are the sort of discussions that we're hoping to have and lay out for the membership.
The USMEF Spring Conference runs through Friday in KC, Missouri. Now expanding a little more on African swine fever, USDA expects pork production to increase 3.5% to over 28 billion pounds by 2020. The increase comes in response to higher international pork prices caused by pork deficits in China. Those higher prices mean farrowings likely will accelerate in late 2019 and the following year. Now for beef producers here in Montana, we can expect to see all proteins increase. In 2020, beef production will rise by 1%, and broiler production should jump by 1.3%. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Returning back this afternoon, the Montana Farmers Union is heading to Kalispell June 5th and 6th for the group's mid-year conference. Exploring agriculture in the Flathead Valley will be the theme of this year's event, which will include a variety of area tours and presentations. For more information on registration and hotel details, just visit MontanaFarmersUnion.com today. And finally this afternoon, the last World Ag Supply and Demand Estimates report from USDA forecasts increase for beef production in 2020 based on higher projected steer and heifer slaughter and carcass weights. Under the assumption trade policies remain consistent, it is expected tightness in competitor beef supplies and firm global demand will support strong U.S. beef exports in comparison to 2019. And as we mentioned earlier, those concerns with China and African swine fever, it could be a big opportunity for beef producers here in Montana and across the nation to get a few more pennies on that check every fall. And that's all the time we have. We'll send it right back over to the news desk.